Hello, welcome back. This is chapter first, The Portrait of a Lady, written by Ch-1, and today I'm going to explain page number 4 to you. So here we go. Old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older, and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. So, talking about grandmother, she was old. As previously mentioned, she was old, but not only old, she was terribly old. So old that she couldn't have grown older. She could not become older than that. She had reached the saturation point of point not in age but in her appearance, and so she could not grow older. She could not look any older than that, and she remained the same for 20 years. For 20 years she looked exactly the same way. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. Okay, so, and what is said here that, well, looking at her appearance, one could not imagine that she could ever be pretty, ever be beautiful, good looking. That was impossible to imagine because the author found her the same, looking the same way for all 20 years that he had known his grandmother, the same way. So she couldn't have grown older, she couldn't have been even pretty, beautiful, but she was beautiful. She hobbled about the house in spotless white, with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop, and the other telling the beads of her rosary. Now, talking more about the grandmother, the author says here, she walked about the house, hobbled, not steady, you can say, not steady movement. She hobbled, she wobbled. So she could not move steadily. First, secondly, she moved about in spotless white. That is, she wore white sari, and since she was pretty in her young days, that is, she was fair looking, so already the complexion was fair, and secondly, she wore white sari, so she looked completely white. She was in white and she looked spotless white, just white, fully white from top to bottom. And she moved in that white sari all over the places. That is, she moved inside the house, she moved about the house in her that appearance, white, spotless white appearance, and she hobbled, she moved in unsteady way, resting one of the hands on her waist. While she moved, she had one hand on her waist and other telling the beads of the rosary. That is, in the other hand she always carried some kind of, you can say, the rudraksh, that is the beads of rudraksh made into a chain, a circle, a chain, and you find some people reading or say telling those beads. So she used to do that. She used to do the same. So one hand would be busy telling the beads of the rosary, and the other hand would be on her waist balancing getting her proper balance, helping her maintaining the proper balance of the body. As previously mentioned, she was a little bent. She a little bent forward. So she had to balance the body, and to balance the body, she had to take the help of her other hand, and with the other hand, she used to give the body a little balance. Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, puckered face, and again her hair were all silvery, all grey. As they were grey, so they looked silvery. So here the author mentions here silvery lock, referring to the grey hair of the grandmother. And at the same time, she had the puckered face. Puckered means face having folds. Skin folding on face, that is called puckered face. So her face was puckered, and her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayer as she kept herself busy telling the beads of the rosary. So her lips also remain engaged in her prayer. She was always busy in her prayer, remembering the God, or praying to God. So that was it, and the prayer was always inaudible. That is silent. Yes, she was beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains. Yes, she was beautiful, and she was just like the winter landscape in the mountain. So during winter time in the mountains, what do we see, or what we find? Snow. The mountain gets covered with snow, so she just looked the same way, complete white. An expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. So she was an expanse of pure white serenity. She was fully white. Fully white, so an expanse, a spread of pure white serenity, beauty, breathing peace and contentment. And she was always breathing peace. That is, she was at peace. There was peace in her life, and she was contented. She had no desires. She was free from desires, so she had a peaceful life, peaceful living. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. So the author talks here about the situation which allowed him to stay with grandmother. So it all happened that our father worked in the city, and he had to stay there. And since he had to take his family there, so first he went with his wife, that is author's mother, and first they made all the arrangements there. And when they got settled there, after that he called. He sent for both of them. So until they were settled there in the city, he was left there with the grandmother in the village. So both of them stayed together for that amount of time until they were called to the city. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. In the morning, she would wake him up and also get him ready for the school. That was the duty of grandmother, since there was no third person in the family there in the village. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed me, dressed me, in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. So she had a routine, daily routine, that is, in the morning she had to give Oth a bath, she had to dress him up for school, get him ready for the school. So until he got ready, that is, while she get him ready, she would constantly say her prayers, and this time it would be a little louder. Sing-song way means in the way that in a little soft voice she would sing the prayer with the hope that the author would listen them closely and would learn them by heart. So with this hope, with this intention, she would sing the prayers to him. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. The author loved Granny's voice. Possibly she had a good voice and he loved her voice, and that's why he listened to her prayers but was not bothered, was not uh, at all at all careful, not at all, he didn't at all care to learn the prayers by heart. Then she would fetch me wooden slate which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot, and a red pen. Okay, after that, after getting him ready, she would also get other things ready, that is, the material, reading material, writing material ready. So, first of all, she would get him the slate, which would be plastered with yellow chalk, that is, yellow chalk would be applied. She would apply yellow chalk on the slate, and then she would also arrange for the ink in earthen pot, a small earthen pot, and then she'd also arrange for him a red pen and tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. And then after arranging all things, she would tie them into a bundle. She would wrap everything, all of them, all the materials together in a bundle, into a bundle. After a breakfast of a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar sprayed on it, we went to school. And then he would get his breakfast, the same breakfast every morning, that is thick stale chapatis, thick, not thin, thick stale chapatis, the chapatis that would be made the last night, that she made the last night, and on that she would spread some sugar and also butter, and that was his morning breakfast. And then they went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs, and at the same time she cared to carry chapatis, the stale chapatis, along with her for the village dogs. So this is all for now. Thank you.